Sup Minecrafters, SirRobHiFi here. This is the Silverfish block builder. I was watching Etho a couple days ago and he was working on this and he was having some issues with the system getting stuck because it couldn't keep up with the amount of spawns. So I had a couple of ideas and I wanted to play around with it, so I basically copied his setup, this clean stone generator with the backup, so the failsafe as it were, that he's got built into this. I thought it was pretty cool. But his issue was that when the silverfish were up against the block, sometimes there'd be enough of a pause between silverfish entering blocks, but sometimes they would do it too quick for the system and then it would jam. So I was trying to think, okay, maybe a bottleneck would do it. So what I did is they dropped down onto this half slab, and then because of that there's only half a block gap between that and a glass block above this minecart. So they can't actually enter that gap, but they can enter the minecart. And you know, you can get all mobs into minecarts. You know, I've done it with ghasts and magma cubes and everything basically. So the only issue with mobs in minecarts is getting them back out. So I figured in this case, if a silverfish goes in a minecart, it should be able to get back out of it if there's a block next to it that it can occupy. And as you just saw, that's exactly what they do. So this effectively is a funnel. Only one silverfish can get into the cart at a time. And therefore, see that guy there? You'll only have one lined up for entering the stone at a time. There's another one going in. Now, sometimes there's a bit of a pause before the next silverfish goes in the minecart, and therefore it kind of slows the system down a little bit more than is ideal. And then sometimes it goes really quickly and they enter the minecart one after another real fast. You know, it can be like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 1 per second. And what I realized it all depends on is how many silverfish you've got backed up over here. One of the issues I noticed was this block here that is now obsidian, that used to be glass. And because of this half block, they were glitching into this block, and because it was glass it didn't do any damage to them, and they'd be stuck inside there, and they could even get pushed out of it and escape and be running around. So now I've got an obsidian block, and if one does get clipped into it, then it takes damage and it dies and suffocates inside the block. So that is a quick fix for that. Once you have a decent number of silverfish sitting here, about 25, 30, then the numbers don't really increase. It keeps up quite nicely with the level of spawning from the spawner itself, and the numbers basically maintain at that level pretty much indefinitely. As you can see, I've got a half slab above the water there, and that's to stop them from jumping while they're on this block, and that helps keep these guys in place there. And the other thing it does is these ones on this side are actually trying to jump up onto that half block, but they can't quite make it because they can't jump a full block and a half. So the effect that has is that it's pushing these ones and keeping these ones in here, and these ones in turn are keeping these ones down here, which in turn, all the jostling means that there's continuously silverfish pressed up against this minecart, so they can enter the minecart one by one, enter the block, and then off you go. You're off to building your big massive block of silverfish blocks. So that was my fix. It's not perfect. I have had a couple of times I've had jams where they've gone in one after another really fast, and the times that it did that was because I had far too many built up over on the side here. So to deal with that, I figured, you know, with the amount, because before when I just had this set up, it couldn't keep up with the number of silverfish, and it would go up to 50, 60, 70, 80. The numbers would still keep rising. The reason it doesn't now is because I took this whole setup in MC Edit, I rotated it and flipped it round the other side. So the same spawner is feeding two systems. Exactly the same setup. But what I had to do to make this work is in the middle of the 8x8, you've got water down this half that goes to the left, and then if you go to this block next to it, the water on this side all goes to the right. So that gives you a fairly even split. You get about half of them going down one side and half to the other. So that keeps the numbers down on the system, and that way this system can keep up with the spawn rates. See what we've got about now. We've got 56, 59. So it tends to hover around 60, waiting to get in the cart. And because those numbers don't increase, and I've sat and watched it for a long time without the numbers really increasing, that means that 2 is enough, because I was considering doing 4 of these systems, one from each face, so you could have one north, south, east and west. But actually that would probably be too much, and it would reduce the amount in here, and therefore it wouldn't warm up quick enough. And seeing as this is enough to maintain the numbers, I just let it go at that. So, oh, you may notice the vines inside as well. While I was designing this setup over here and working on this piece over here, I could hear the silverfish taking fall damage. You know, that ankle snapping sound every time one falls down into the lower sections of the water. And that was when I only had one side set up. So what I did is I figured I'd use the Tarzan vines and put them inside like that. And as you can see, it doesn't stop them from spawning. They still spawn just as they would if it was open space. But it has that added effect of letting them drift down without taking any damage at all. Of course, there's other ways of doing it. You can make the water 2 blocks deep instead, so you can drop mobs from quite high up without taking any damage. But I thought I'd give this a try, and it's working quite nicely, so I left it like that. I did put a lighting system in, but if you look up in there you can see that it's just every other row with the new glowstone lamps. To properly suppress spawning for silverfish, you would have to have every row. The whole ceiling would have to be glowstone lamps or glowstone, or you know, whatever you want to use. Light level 15. So it doesn't completely stop the spawning, but it suppresses it down so it lowers the level of spawning right down to like a quarter of what it would be. Anyway, the reason I left it every other row is because of the vines. I couldn't have both, so I left out the other rows. So, and anyway, I don't really need to turn it off. This is just a test setup anyway. If I was going to make it for real, I would probably not bother with the vines at all in this particular type of trap. Maybe with skeletons or zombies I would. But anyway, as you can see, this is ticking away. I did also see a follow-up video from Etho, and he seems to have come up with a bit of a fix. I'm not sure if it's ideal. I'm not sure if it's working for him, and he's eliminated the backups, the freezes on it. But I also saw, on top of his video, I saw a video from JL, was it 5279? And him and his guys, I think maybe it was Panda who made the one they did, the Silverfish trap they did. They came up with a very elaborate system, very impressive. But to be honest, seeing as spawners can only go at one rate, it doesn't matter how many people are in range of it, if it's single player or multiplayer, the spawning rates are going to be the same. So as long as your system maintains the constant figure, let's see, I'm at 52, 55, so mid 50s to 60. As you can see, the numbers of entities is still the same, even though it's been running and more mobs have been spawning. As long as you can maintain a constant number of mobs, you know your system's working fine. If they were starting to build up, you'd have a problem. If it was churning out blocks much faster than the spawn rate, then you would only have one or two sitting in here, and you would have periods where it would take time for the mobs to build up and for them to enter the blocks. So you would have kind of defeated the purpose of going to all that extra effort. So I think this is a good middle ground. I'm not sure if I'd ever build one. I might build one in my world for, you know, for the fun of it. And if I did, I think I'd go with this. It seems to be working quite well. So that's that. Next video, I'm going to talk about more issues that have plagued me with the latest update, how it's affected my mob traps, and specifically and most importantly my ghast trap. And that's been a real headache. But I'll talk about that in the next video. If you haven't seen my ghast trap videos, you know, maybe you'd like to have a look. It's a little bit broken at the moment, but I'm working on it. Anyway, till next time, see you later guys.